Welcome, Freedom Finders, to the first episode of 2022. Cannot believe we're here. And in today's episode, we're going to be having a conversation with Trina L. Martin about her book, From a Mess to Amazing, 7 Steps to Create the Life You Deserve, and discuss with her topics related to career and leadership. I reached out to Trina because she is putting herself out there to be a source of support for women of color who are trying to succeed in the field of technology and trying to support women who are seeking leadership roles and trying to break free from the box of just being limited to typical female-oriented positions. So really wanted to have a conversation with her about leadership and more specifically about her book, because I'm always interested to read about steps. You're going to take me from point A to point B. I want to hear your steps and your methodology of getting there. And so the title of her book was really exciting to me, along with hearing about what she's gone through in her life. So in this episode, you'll be learning more about Trina and her experiences in her career thus far, along with personal experiences and how she has used those experiences to be a source of inspiration to others, and how she inspires others to be motivated to achieve their specific goals, and how to bounce back from obstacles that we will likely inevitably face. Hello, this is Alisia Young, and welcome to Teach Me Freedom. This podcast is about learning how to live a freer life from authors, entrepreneurs, and experts, those who have done it and who teach others how to do it as well, and what it feels like while applying those methods to our lives along the way. Every episode will deliver resources, anecdotes, and/or reviews to support you in living a more freedom-filled life. Let's jump in. Please note the video version of this episode is available on YouTube at Teach Me Freedom. The link is also mentioned in the show notes. Enjoy. Trina, welcome to the show. Freedom Finders, please welcome Trina. So excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Alisia. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and speaking with you.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited to speak with you as well. And Trina, please tell us about yourself and about your book, From a Mess to Amazing, 7 Steps to Create the Life You Deserve.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm Trina L. Martin. First of all, I am a mother of 2 teenagers. I am an international speaker, a 2-time author. I am a podcaster as well. I have my own business, and I wrote the book, From a Mess to Amazing. It was my journey of coming into my self-love and self-worth. And it was released January of 2020, so right before the pandemic started. So the pandemic took over and the book kind of got lost in the pandemic, but I'm glad, you found interest and found that it was very valuable and inspirational. So I wrote this book because I was doing some self-development, let's say. And the book is this title exactly how I felt, From a Mess to Amazing. So I am a retired naval officer. I retired a year ago. I served for 30 years. I spent 2 decades in IT. So I've had a very, very great life as far as career. I'm very driven. I've progressed in my life. I've checked all the boxes. I've succeeded. And about 10 years ago, I just hit a wall. Things just were happening, like one thing after the other. And I hit the lowest point in my life. And I just said, I'm so unhappy. Things are not going right. If you look at me on paper or look at me from the outside, I have everything. I have a beautiful family. I'm a single mother. My kids are beautiful and doing well. I have the career, my business, all of this stuff. But internally, I was a mess. I was just broken. I was so broken, so damaged inside. And I had to really start to heal because I found that I was becoming very bitter. And I found that I was holding on to some things that I should not have that were affecting my personal life, especially my mental health and my emotional health. So that's why I wrote the book. And I know we'll probably delve into some more, so I don't want to give it all away right now. But that's why I wrote the book, because as I was going through things, I was going, wow, maybe I should write this in a book. And it's a easy read. It's not very long. But I just wanted to give people a means of inspiration, something that they could read quickly, that would actually let them see that there's someone exactly like them going through the same thing, but has accomplished things and been successful and triumphed over them. So I wanted the people who are feeling helpless and hopeless, like I was feeling pretty much at that time and throughout my life, I wanted them to have some hope.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for putting that to paper and sharing your message with us, because I was letting Trina know that I was able to hear, like, it's just such a powerful message. And as Trina mentioned, it's a quick read. I read it in an afternoon over the weekend, and just, it was very inspirational, and it's just really great reminders of the things that we need to do. And I'm not going to give it away either. I'm just going to go based on what you share because it's your book. But it's, yeah, definitely a really great reminder, especially when you touch on like mindset and personal development, and you've shared different things that you've gone through, which I'll ask you about a little bit later. But very inspired, and to see you here triumphant and just thriving and so positive and just willing to share with others and share your spirit with others. It's just really incredible to see.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so how about we jump into the questions, because we've got a lot for you and so excited to hear from you. So the first one is, walk us through your career high points and low points. And something I just want to really quickly say is, another reason that I was really drawn to reading your book is that I remember learning that you had a career in technology, still very passionate about technology, and that's a direction that I'm currently studying for my second career, for health technology. So I was so excited to hear about the fact that, technology is important to you, and just that you're interested in that. So I just wanted to put that out there, like, oh, that's so cool, like, that's awesome. So yes, please walk us through your career high and low points.
Oh my goodness. So I've had probably 3 careers actually, before I started my business. And I started out in, well, private sector. I did that for 20 years in IT. I was a programmer, consultant, certified computer examiner, and this was before computer forensics became popular. This was like in 2007, 2008, I got certified to do that. So it's really a passion of mine. And it's something that now in my business, I have turned to focus on because it is such a passion. And I think this is my purpose in life. So I'm now focusing on women of color in tech. And that's my main focus as far as how to get companies to actually really sincerely hire women of color in tech, to hire, to promote, to retain them, because we face many obstacles. And I'm passionate about trying to help girls coming to the industry as well. But as for high and low points, so we'll just go with my IT career. And then I had, like I said, 30 years in the military. But some of the high points were the fact that with IT is being a Black female who actually entered into the technology field and was successful. And I did this in the 90s. I remember going to a technical high school because I started to love computers, and I didn't have a computer at home. Computers weren't like they are now, where everybody has a phone, iPad, and everything like that. So it was something that was really foreign to me. So I ended up getting my degree in computer science, going into tech, and I've had some really great positions. I mean, I've programmed multi-million dollar systems for some major corporations, and I'm not going to mention them here, but some big names that I've worked for, and I've been the lead person and all of that. And that's kind of been my high point, as well as in to transfer to the Navy. Kind of similar as well is I reached a very senior rank as an officer in the Navy. I was happy to represent being a woman, but also a woman of color. So those were the high points. But then on the low points, for both of those careers, I was often the only woman of color in rooms, in meetings, on projects, things like that. And of course, because of that, I was subjected to some of the things that come along with that, the racism, being overlooked, or not being heard when you say, okay, I need this, or I need help with this, or this is not going to work. People ignoring you, or saying, oh, we don't have funding for that. You can do that. So those have been my really low points, and just battling those type of things I had to do in both of those careers, because I knew that I was being treated unfairly. Being someone who I've been very driven all my life, I've worked hard, I've earned everything. I'm a child from a single mother. I grew up in inner city Chicago, so it's not like I had wealth or means or a name that got me to these places. I actually worked. So when you get into these industries and as you climb the ladder, you find that things are not equal as you hope they are. And I found that as I climbed the ladder, I found that I intimidated a lot of people. So because of that, I had a lot of positions and a lot of people at these jobs actually attack me and put me in their sights, so to speak, to try to set me up for failure, to harm me, to make me fail. And that's kind of like the lowest point, because you go into your career and you really want to do a good job and you're ambitious, but then your ambitious intimidates other people. And I say you're intimidating to other people because they don't want to do anything. They decided that they've given up on life, or they're not going to try harder, whatever the case may be. And because you are that person who wants to achieve that next level, they're intimidated by you. So that's been like my lowest point that I've faced in my careers.
Mhm. That's understandable, especially like I'm just thinking about you're coming in and you have this desire to make change, and you have the drive to do it, and it's hard to believe that color and sex, gender is a thing where it's something where people will see it and then actively, I don't know if sometimes it's unconscious to people, but actively decide, okay, I'm going to try to prevent this person from achieving their goals. Like, I'm going to actively get into their way. Like, how did you deal with that when you realized that there are obstacles being placed in front of you, or you weren't being taken seriously? How did you overcome that, and what were some of your strategies for getting through that?
Mm, that's a good question. Well, as I said, I've always been driven. So coming from Chicago, coming from the background that I did come from, I'm very strong as far as achieving and driving and being successful. That is always been my life thing, is okay, I know I have a goal. I set this goal. I'm going to work hard to achieve it. So I've done that, and that's kind of how I approach all of these situations. But also, I'm kind of one of my mentors was Congressman John Lewis, who recently died a couple of years ago, and his saying was, never be afraid to make some noise, to get into trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. And I've always been that type of person, that I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and not in a um, brash way, but in a way that lets people know that, okay, I feel a wrongdoing and I'm going to speak up. And you know what? And people don't like that. And I don't care, because I feel that as long as I'm speaking truth,
Mhm.
I'm going to stand for what I stand for. Because just like the saying is, if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. So you have to let people know that you have standards, you have convictions, and you're going to stand for those, whether they like it or not. And that you're going to, protect yourself and you're going to speak out for yourself. So I've done that. I've done that, as well as making sure I was on top of my game with every career that I've been in. As far as, getting the books I needed to progress in my career, personally investing in courses, putting in that extra work outside of work, that I needed, because I knew that in these careers I had to be smarter and work harder. So that meant coming home, reading those books, taking a course, whether it's online or going somewhere. Those are the things that I did throughout all my careers to keep myself one step ahead of the people who were trying to see me fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lot of initiatives, a lot of proactivity, lots of drive.
Yes.
Clearly. Yeah. How did you juggle this with being a single mom? Because it's hard enough to do this when you don't have children, and plus you have the energy that's being devoted to these careers, and to not letting yourself be overtaken by the actions of others, but also like the structures of the organizations or the ways that things are happening. So that takes energy as well, to just deal with that and to keep on going. So how did you juggle all of that along with being a single mother?
It's funny, a lot of prayer. Because
Okay.
a lot of days I felt like I was at my end. Sometimes I was like, oh my God, I'm a horrible mother. But in the end, I think my children saw how I was working hard. And when they got old enough to understand, I would talk to them and say, okay, I'm going to work, or I'm doing this, or I have my business and this is what I'm building. Or, coming home from work, if, I would feed them, do all the things, help with homework. And then I'm in my room with a book or doing something. And I'm like, okay, this is why I'm doing this. And as they got older, I think they realized and they saw. And then I'm not going to, for everyone out there listening, it's not easy. So I'm not going to lie, and I'm not Superwoman, even though I do wear an S on my chest. Sometimes I need to take it off and relax. But it wasn't easy. But, thank God I'm blessed with two very good children who, they're straight A's. They don't give me any problems. But it's hard. It's hard to juggle it. And I had to do it with a lot of prayer, and just, trying to find, and I have to say this, the work-life balance, that doesn't exist. there's, no, there's no such thing, because, in order to succeed in one area, you got to let something in another area slack off for a time being, right? So when I'm, being that mother, that means I'm not doing something else. But I remember as my kids were progressing, and getting older, and it's even still now, not so much in the last couple of years because of the pandemic, but I made it a point to always take us on vacations. So whether it was a spring break or Christmas or Thanksgiving, I always did something. We had one fabulous trip during the year that I would take them on, that it was nothing but us, just us three, no computers, no me working, no checking email. So I think in 2017, I took them on a Disney cruise for Christmas, so we were gone for a week, and it was fabulous. And it was so those are the things that I try to do, because I know throughout the year, I'm so busy and engaged in other things that I try at least once a year where it's nothing but us, and I'm fully engaged there. So that's how I did it.
Mhm. That's very fabulous and encouraging, because I've heard, but I've also read about like how challenging it can be to just be a parent. But even if you have a partner, even if you have support, when you're accomplishing things, like how do you not overgive to your work life? How do you not overgive to your family life? How do you ensure that you're making time for yourself? And as you said, like work-life balance, it doesn't exist. And it just sounds like there's a level that you have a level of acceptance of that's just how it is, but you're also prioritizing that we may not be able to do stuff right now, but there is that time carved out later, so that we can have that time together. And yeah.
Yeah, it is it's a juggling act. And many nights, even now, I'm up to the wee hours of the morning doing things, because that's just the sacrifice. If you want to be successful or do whatever it is you have to do, those are the things that you have to do. And like I said, if it depends on what you want to make the priority at the time. So if work is going to be the priority, that means your family is going to get less of your time, and vice versa. So you just have to choose what you're going to do when you're going to do it, and know when it's important to not compromise either one of those.
Mhm. Yeah, that's helpful to hear. I appreciate you sharing that because I know several of the listeners and myself are thinking about like motherhood, parenthood, and that stage of life. And I will admit that's a fear that I have of how how can you survive as an ambitious person, but also wanting to, support your family both financially, but in an emotionally nourishing environment and give that time. And also think like my mom is a single mother too. So I'm just anytime that I meet a single mother, I'm just completely impressed because it's quite a bit. I'd like to know more about how you succeeded as a woman of color in the technology space.
Um, you know, just really being driven, perseverance, being resilient, um, staying ahead of the game. And I mentioned that earlier, but really being focused and really telling myself that, okay, I worked to be here. I worked very hard, so I belong here. Um, Regardless of what other people may think or say, even myself, even at times, you hear that voice in your own head saying, well, do you belong here? Can you keep up? This person is more qualified than you. So we have that voice with ourselves. And I've just always told myself that, yes, I can do it. Yes, I belong here. I'm going to work hard, and I have always worked hard. So that's kind of how I just kept myself going and kept myself motivated to just persevere and push through everything.
And do you have any advice for individuals who may not necessarily be so intrinsically driven, where it takes a lot of effort to get themselves to a driven point?
I would tell someone like that is decide on what it is you really want to do and set the goal and stay focused. And I know times are going to come where it's going to get hard, or something's going to come that may push that goal aside or may delay that goal, but don't give up. It's always hard. I know people say set goals, and they say it like, oh, just set goals, and then ooh, you're there. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not always like that. Yeah, you set a goal and life happens. You never know what may come up that may push you back, but always have in your mind why you want to do this. What's your end result? What are you looking to achieve? So if you can't accomplish that goal when you thought you could accomplish it, don't give up. Don't just say, okay, well, boom, everything is, just I'm a failure now because I couldn't get that done when I expected to get it done.
Mhm.
Regroup and just do it when you can. And sometimes we do need to take that time and set things aside and take time for ourselves. So it's not a failure. And I had to learn this myself because I'm a goal person. Okay, I'm gonna set this goal. I'm gonna have it done by this time. This. And I'll be like, oh my God, I expected to be here at
Yeah.
this time and I'm not. Well, it's okay. And I had to tell myself that it's okay. Take that time, whatever may have come up, life, or maybe sometimes you just need a break. And that's what I'm learning is if you need a break, take your break. And then resume when you have that energy and that mental capacity where you can continue on.
Mhm. That's great advice. Thank you. There are some traumatic experiences that you shared in your book, that you went through. Some of them were quite like as you described them, I was just like, dang, like I'm just imagining if I were in your shoes or if I was living that life, it's like, wow, it would be very challenging to bounce back. But then you shared, how do you bounce back from that? And so, how did you overcome the traumatic experiences that you dealt with and that you shared when it came to the relationship that you had with your mother, along with your ex husband, and then the toxic work environment that you had transitioned to after devoting a large period of time of your career to a different role?
Mm, you know, a lot of that was prayer,
Mm.
counseling, going to therapy, and really sitting with myself and really inward reflecting. Um, so just to touch on it a little bit, I'm not going to give it all away because it's in the. Um, I grew up with a very verbally abusive mother, and as a result, I ended up, having low self esteem, not knowing my worth, which resulted in me choosing men that also abused me and were not good for me in my life. And the ex husband that you're referring to is my first husband, who, as I mentioned in the book, and I won't give it away, but wasn't exactly someone that I chose, but someone that was kind of, I would say that I was kind of manipulated into marrying. Did not last long, just maybe 6 months at the most, but it was very traumatic, very emotional, abusive. And actually, it came down to where it was my life was in danger. So after going through that, that was like a very big turning point in my life when I experienced that relationship, because from there, I think my total, my self worth and my self esteem, which was already teetering because of my childhood, I think that really made it just plummet. Because at the time, before I got into that situation, I was starting to come of myself and really felt proud of myself as far as my achievements. And then that happened, and it really, and one, like I said, I almost ended up dying in that situation. But then it really had an effect on me mentally, because I was thinking, wow, I trusted people who I thought really loved me and thought that they were looking out for my good. But when I found out that they had ulterior motives, that was a thing that really messed with me. And then it messed with me the fact that I knew I had gone against my better judgment. We all have that. I call it, God gives you that intuition, that second, sense. When you hear, your inner being is saying, don't do that, or turn right, not left. And I had that, and I ignored it because I was listening to people who I thought had my good, you know, in their concern. So that really made me very. It really hurt me for years, and I'm talking about 20, 30 years. It really was something that really affected my life. So when I started to really sit and dig inside myself and really do my self work, that was one of the things that I had to deal with. And a lot of prayer. I got back into church, reading my Bible, listening to sermons, going to therapy and counseling. And I know now people are coming out with, the fact that they're having mental stresses, and they need to take time to mentally help themselves, which is great, because at that time I was going through what I was going through. We were in a period of, oh, you didn't go to therapists, you didn't go to counselors, because people would say, you're crazy, what are you going to a therapist for?
Mm.
um,
Stigma.
but here I was, 30 years later, I had to deal with that. So I ended up going to therapy for that, as well as just working through it slowly, because I felt that I wasn't worthy, and I felt that, okay, this was such a horrible thing. And um, I felt people were going to judge me. And I had one person, I mentioned that in the book, who I shared my story with, and they actually made me feel um, horrible for sharing my story with them. So, um, Just a lot of just, prayer. I think prayer and counseling. And actually, and I have a good friend who has has been my friend for 30 years, who has known all my things that I've gone through in life. And she has always encouraged me and always told me that I was a good person and don't let these things affect me. So that's how I got through it.
Yes. So it's a process. It's not like a you just pick up a book and read it and then you're instantly cured, or you just go for one appointment and discuss whatever with like a counselor therapist and then you're all good to go. It's this ongoing process of self-investment, but in different, there's different tools that you used: praying, supportive friendship,
Yes.
therapy. Yes.
Yeah.
Self-development you were talking about, is personal development you were talking about as well.
Yeah, it takes a lot. And as you said, it's a process. It's not, um, oh, one day I wake up and this is what I'm going to do. And oh, I'm cured. It's a process because, like I said, I experienced that. And, 30 years going after that, I just was having not good results in some of the decisions that I made. And when I sat and thought about it, it resulted from that time in my life where I was trying to prove to myself that I wasn't the bad person, or I wasn't as stupid as I thought I was for doing this. So I was trying to, I guess, prove to myself and others that I was better than that. And again, that didn't go well for me. Trying to prove to other people. And if I can say anything to the listeners and to you, what I've learned in my life is always be true to yourself. Always be true to you and who you are, who you stand for, and don't let anyone else tell you what you should do. And that was what I learned from that experience. And it took me many years. And like I said, I almost lost my life in that situation.
Yeah.
But always be true to yourself.
A very deep truth that Trina sharing with us there, to always be true to ourselves. And can think of so many times that in the past of having that inner compass, intuition saying, take this step versus this one, but choosing to go with the one that seemed to be more safe, and just always working to more finely attune that intuition and trust that it's going to lead in the right direction. So please make sure you tune in next week. We're going to continue this conversation with Trina and go a little bit more deep. And please feel free to reach out to Trina. If she's impacted you, she'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Teach Me Freedom podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and found it beneficial. Feel free to reach out to us at teachmefreedom2020@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the show on your favorite platform for streaming content. Feel free to comment and leave a 4 or 5 star review if you feel so inclined. Connect with you next time.